7 miraculous signs of your calling are manifested and prophesied for you. Sarah walked through the quaint village of Alderwood, the air thick with the comforting fragrances of home-baked bread and blooming flowers. As the sun dipped behind the hills, casting a golden glow over the local chapel, a cherished beacon of hope, she felt a stirring within her heart. At 35, Sarah was known as the humble schoolteacher, a loving guide who nurtured the village children, teaching them the beauty of faith and the importance of hard work. Yet lurking in her heart was a sneaking concern, a whisper that perhaps she was destined for something greater. This particular Sunday was special. The congregation gathered for a prayer meeting in honor of St. Jude, the patron saint of lost causes. The church, filled to the brim with creaking wood pews and candlelight, buzzed with hushed excitement. Sarah settled in the back, almost invisible, clutching the worn edges of her hymnal. Pastor Tom's voice resonated through the room, recounting the miraculous interventions and divine encounters of others. Yet as she listened, a pang of loneliness struck her. Had God truly forgotten her? God has not forgotten you, Sarah. The signs of your calling are already upon you, Pastor Tom declared, as though the words had been written for her alone. A shock ran through her. It felt as if the very walls whispered her name. The air crackled with anticipation. She could almost sense the shift in the atmosphere. The first sign manifested that very week. Little Joshua, a boy in her class whom illness had confined to bed, suddenly sprang to life after Sarah prayed for him. Sarah had felt an unexplainable warmth envelope her as she whispered her heartfelt prayer. Days later, when she visited his home, he smiled widely, claiming he felt a powerful presence fill him with strength. Joy erupted in the village. Sarah's heart fluttered with hope, yet her thoughts tangled with doubt. Was this real? Then came the second sign. A family she knew, the Braithwaites, were on the brink of despair. The father had lost his job. One evening, Sarah baked them a pie, adding a note of encouragement and a promise of prayer. Just days later, through what seemed like an impossible twist, Mr. Braithwaite received a new job offer. The relief and faith ignited the hearts around her. The village buzzed with tales of divine providence, yet Sarah felt a mix of exhilaration and skepticism. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As the signs began to escalate, so did the shadows of doubt creeping into Sarah's heart. Late at night, she would lie awake, recounting every detail of the events. The dreams came next. Vivid visions of her standing before throngs of people, speaking words that resonated with faith. Yet a heavy fear pressed down on her. Was she truly chosen? Her family rolled their eyes at her talk of signs and omens. Friends exchanged worried glances. One night, in the depths of her anguish, Sarah found herself at the chapel, under the flickering of solemn candles. Overwhelmed, she surrendered it all to God, longing for clarity. Suddenly, the air swirled with a palpable energy. A golden light enveloped her, and the whispers of angels filled her spirit. Eyes were wide, hearts raced. The village, sensing something extraordinary, held its breath. Sarah felt a transformation wash over her, a divine purpose awakening within. Yet, as clarity danced on the horizon, questions remained. Was this truly God's plan, or just a fleeting dream? As the glow faded and Sarah arose, the village stood in awe, witnessing a moment that could redefine their faith. Were these divine signs real? What awaited Sarah on this newfound path? The uncertainty hung heavy, echoing a deeper mystery yet to unfold. As the days rolled on, the village of Alderwood buzzed with fresh energy. Word about Sarah's experiences had spread like wildfire. whispers of miracles danced through narrow streets and lively markets, infusing life with renewed hope and expectation. Each morning, the sun seemed to rise with a golden sheen that signaled divine possibility, and each evening, neighbors gathered in small groups, recounting tales of faith and recovery. However, amidst the joy, Sarah wrestled with uncertainty. No sooner had she begun to embrace her role as a bearer of blessings than doubt clawed at her spirit. Had she truly been chosen? The warmth of her past prayers flickered like a candle flame caught in a breeze. Each miracle she witnessed created a wave of uplifting energy, but shadows of skepticism also loomed ever closer. Could she sustain this? One brisk morning, Sarah encountered Anna, an elderly woman known for her wisdom. Anna's eyes sparkled as she approached, leaning heavily on her cane. "My dear," she said, "you carry a light within you that shines more brilliantly than the sun. But remember, with light comes shadows. You must confront what's hidden to truly embrace your calling." Those words hung in the air like the last notes of a hymn, and Sarah felt a shiver of truth. What shadows lay in her heart? What fears did she need to cast aside? Determined to find answers, Sarah sought solitude each evening in the chapel. One night, as the moon bathed everything in silvery light, she kneeled before the altar, heart open and vulnerable. "Lord," she whispered, "guide me to my truth. Show me the path I'm meant to walk." In that silence, she felt a rush of wind, a sacred reminder of a presence that enveloped her. The next morning, the village woke to another gentle rumble of change. It began with a knock on her door. It was little Joshua, the boy who had once been ill. Beside him stood his mother, eyes wide with gratitude. "Sarah," she breathed, "he keeps saying he saw angels coming to visit him last night." "Angels?" Sarah echoed, her heart racing. "Yes," Joshua chimed, bright-eyed and animated. "They told me to tell you something important. God has plans for you, Miss Sarah, something big." In that moment, a spark ignited within her. Maybe, just maybe, she was being shown not just the power of prayer, but also the weight of responsibility that came with it. The tension of calling began to feel less like a burden and more like an invitation to deeper faith. As Sarah walked with Joshua and his mother, she felt the village's eyes upon her, filled with anticipation and perhaps a hint of expectation. "What if I fail?" she wondered, grappling with the thought as they continued down the path. Instinctively, she reminded herself, faith is not in the outcome, but in the journey. Days later, the congregation gathered again for Sunday service. The chapel, with its familiar warmth and presence, seemed to pulse with energy. Pastor Tom's voice blended with the gentle rustle of leaves outside. On this day, he spoke about love and sacrifice. Sarah felt every word carved deeper and deeper into her heart. As the service progressed, a profound peace enveloped her. But then, the unexpected happened. She was invited to speak, a moment she hadn't anticipated. Climbing the steps to the pulpit, her palms grew sweaty and her heart raced. The eyes of the congregation focused intently on her, full of hope and expectation. As she opened her mouth to speak, a hush fell over the crowd, and she felt the weight of the moment. Sarah's heart raced, yet within it a soothing confidence whispered, each breath a step towards the unknown calling. "What if this is not just my moment?" she thought, the gravity of it all embracing her. "What if this is the moment God has prepared for every heart here?" With her first words, the air shifted. A wave of sacred energy coursed through the chapel. What happened next, she couldn't predict, but every soul sat on the edge of divine mystery, yearning to see what God would reveal through her. Would courage lead Sarah to embrace her calling, or would fear narrow her path? What awaited in her spirit's journey? The audience felt it, a divine mystery thickening in the air, poised to unravel a new phase of faith. The silence that enveloped the chapel felt alive, electric with anticipation. As Sarah stood there, the words clung to her lips like dew on morning grass, ready to spill forth and bring life to her congregation. But in that sacred space, a moment stretched infinitely, urging her to truly listen. God's love isn't distant, she began, her voice trembling yet firm. It's right here, in each one of us, waiting to be shared. There was a spark of recognition in the crowd. She could see hearts lean forward, curiosity replacing apprehension as they began to absorb her message. With each word, she sensed a powerful connection brewing, a deep well of faith rippling among the people. We are all called to be vessels of His miracles. Just as He touched my life, He longs to touch yours. The eyes of the congregation shone brightly in response. She saw tears glistening, smiles breaking, hands reaching out as if they were already receiving something extraordinary. I stand before you not as someone with all the answers, but as a fellow traveler, Sarah continued, her spirit revitalized by the encouragement she felt. Together, we are all called to be vessels of His miracles. Just as He touched my life, He longs to touch yours. The eyes of the congregation shone brightly in response. She saw tears glistening, smiles breaking, hands reaching out as if they were already receiving something extraordinary. I stand before you not as someone with all the answers, but as a fellow traveler, Sarah continued, her spirit revitalized by the encouragement she felt. Together, we are on a journey where doubts are transformed. Together, we will witness the unfolding of God's promises. In that moment, a hush swept across the room. A palpable energy radiated from Sarah, wrapping around her listeners like a warm embrace. It was as if a divine hand had touched each heart, igniting a flame of hope. She didn't just speak, she poured out her very soul, the essence of her struggles and the beauty of her faith, letting the crowd enjoy the sacred refuge her words provided. As she shared about her own uncertainties, vulnerabilities emerged. Every prayer I've uttered is just as fragile as the whispered wind, yet in my wrestling with doubt, I found strength in Him. Murmurs and nods of agreement resonated throughout the congregation. The comfort of shared experiences created a bond, one that transcended their individual struggles. In that space, boundaries faded and hearts opened wide, inviting the light of God's presence to fill the gaps. Then something shifted. An older gentleman in the back stood up, tears streaming down his cheeks. I've been fearful to share my faith, but what you say, Sarah, it stirs my heart. In unison, more people began to stand, one after another, sharing their burdens and weighty silences. Stories of hurt transformed into cries of hope. It became evident a collective awakening was happening. With newfound confidence, Sarah couldn't help but feel the swell of divine love washing over them all. Together, we can embrace our calling. Let us unite as a community filled with faith, love, and purpose, because our God hasn't finished writing our story. The chapel erupted with fervent amens and spontaneous applause. It felt like an invisible chord had struck, creating a resonant harmony that echoed through the very foundations of the building. Time seemed to stand still as the congregation engaged in a whirlwind of emotion. Some danced, lifting their hands in praise, while others knelt in quiet gratitude. In that mix of devotion, a profound peace swept over them. Bonds were being forged, chains of doubt shattered, and a new energy surged within the very heart of Alderwood. As the service drew to a close, Pastor Tom approached. The pulpit again, beaming with the glow of divine fulfillment. What Sarah has stirred tonight is surely a glimpse of God's abundant grace in our lives. He has called each of us for a purpose far greater than we can imagine, if only we dare to step forward. Sarah smiled, warmth enveloping her. Gratitude surged in her chest. It wasn't just her calling, but a collective movement, igniting souls in their village. They were embodying something greater, a tapestry woven with threads of love and devotion. Yet, as she stepped down from the pulpit, a lingering question settled in her heart. What was the next step in this unfolding journey? What would it truly mean to embrace her calling in greater depths? An unanswered prayer hung delicately in the air, poised to reveal a divine mystery in the days to come. The aftermath of that incredible service lingered in the air like the sweetest incense, weaving through the fabric of the congregation's hearts. As Sarah stepped away from the pulpit, she could feel the pulsating energy of the people around her. They were all lit from within, a glow of shared faith spilling over the edges of doubt. "Did you feel that?" a young woman exclaimed, grasping Sarah's hands with fervor. "It was as if the Spirit was moving among us." "I did," Sarah replied, her heart racing with excitement. "It was breathtaking. But now, what does it mean for us?" The crowd around them was buzzing with lively conversation. Individuals shared their impressions, their experiences, and the hopes that had sprung forth during that sacred time. Everyone carried a new flame in their hearts, and Sarah realized this was the beginning. But the next step felt elusive. What should they do with all this newfound passion? Pastor Tom approached, his eyes twinkling with a warmth that radiated comfort. "Sarah, you've ignited something far grander than we anticipated. What should we do next?" The question hung plaintively in the air. Sarah took a deep breath and closed her eyes for a brief moment, seeking clarity. "Perhaps we should start a series of gatherings, a place where we can come together, share our stories, and explore how we can live out this calling." A murmur of approval swept through the gathering. People began to exchange ideas and suggestions, voices intertwining like a rich tapestry. To Sarah, it felt like they were sketching a divine map, each one of them contributing to the greater journey. As the days slipped into weeks, the community grew closer. Local gatherings turned into vibrant events filled with worship, prayer, and testimonies of faith. Sarah found herself in her element, leading discussions, guiding prayer circles, and sharing the wisdom that had blossomed within her. But even amid this flourishing, moments of doubt would creep in during the quiet hours. In her private prayers, Sarah would often ask herself, "Am I truly the one to lead this? Is this path truly meant for me?" And each time, a gentle whisper of reassurance would float through her spirit, urging her to stay the course. Then came a day unlike any other. In the stillness of the chapel, bathed in golden morning light, Sarah felt a sudden weight of divine presence enveloping her. She clutched the Bible, sensing that it vibrated with a deeper significance. What was he trying to reveal? Suddenly, the door swung open, and in walked a stranger, an elderly woman with a tapestry bag slung over her shoulder. There was something ethereal about her presence as she moved closer, each step resonating with purpose. "I've traveled from afar, my dear," she said, her voice soft yet compelling. "The Lord directed me to you. You have a calling that is yet to be unveiled." Sarah's heart quickened. Here was a sign, perhaps the very one she had been asking for. The woman reached into her bag, producing a beautifully crafted scroll that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. "Within these pages are truths and revelations specific to your journey." An electric thrill coursed through Sarah. Her breath caught at the edge of anticipation. What wonders lay within? What divine instructions awaited her? Yet, before she could ask, the woman whispered, "But every revelation comes with a challenge. Are you ready to embrace it?" A blend of awe and fear held Sarah in a state of prayerful reflection. Could she really step forward, embracing whatever the Lord had planned? As she looked into the old woman's eyes, a quiet strength undulated between them. And so, as the sun streamed through the stained glass windows, illuminating this sacred moment, the question of her calling hung palpable in the air. The chamber throbbed with possibilities, as if the echoes of eternity were whispering through the walls. What challenge awaited her? What miraculous signs would unfold in the days to come? Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she gazed at the scroll, the weight of the old woman's words resonating deeply within her spirit. Every revelation comes with a challenge. The phrase reverberated in her mind, a stirring call to action, nudging her beyond the edge of her comfort zone. The stranger's presence seemed to fill the chapel with an unnameable energy. Light danced around her, casting shadows that flitted like butterflies in the air. And yet, amidst the awe, Sarah felt an igniting fear, a trembling uncertainty about the journey ahead. "Can you tell me more?" Sarah finally managed to ask, her voice a whisper entwined with hope. The woman nodded, her eyes sparkling with knowledge, as if the universe unfolded before her. Opening the scroll, she revealed words written in elegant script that spoke of journey and discovery. "These are not just directions," she continued, "but prophecies unfolding in your life. Each sign marks a step towards your calling. Will you heed them?" With every word, Sarah felt that divine thread pulling her closer to a purpose she had sensed but never fully understood. She could almost picture it, shimmering on the horizon like the dawn light cresting over a vast sea. "What are these signs?" she asked, leaning forward. "Patience," the old woman murmured. "To begin, watch for the first sign, the convergence of hearts. When you invite those seeking truth to stand in one accord, miracles will happen. Your gathering will become a beacon." Sarah nodded, embers of inspiration flickering to life within her. It was as if a great orchestration was in play, each note guiding them closer to a heavenly symphony. "Will you prepare your community?" The woman's voice broke through her thoughts. "Will you inspire them to see what they've truly been given?" The old woman continued, unveiling the next sign. "The second sign is blessing shared. When souls come together, there will be testimonies of breakthrough. The stories of triumph over despair will lift one another, showing that faith shines brightest in trials." Sarah's chest swelled with conviction and gratitude. She envisioned her friends and church members speaking boldly about their struggles and victories, collectively rising in faith. "And then," the woman said, her gaze becoming profound, "will come the third sign, the silent prophet. This will be someone unexpected, whispering wisdom from the shadows. Pay attention, as wisdom often comes wrapped in humility." She paused, letting the gravity of her words sink in. Sarah felt a spark of curiosity. Who might that be, and what divine guidance would flow through them? The woman's hand danced slowly over the scroll as she continued. "Next, witness the sign of unity. As your community thrives, there will come a time of decision, where they must choose to stand as one under the mantle of love. Conflict will arise, but so will unity, if they are attuned to His voice." The chapel filled with a resonant silence, the weight of these revelations settling over Sarah. Each sign laid out before her was a light, illuminating a path through uncertainty. As anticipation swirled, she mused over the remaining signs. What other wonders awaited discovery? Could her collective efforts truly lead to a transformation among them all? The fifth sign will be a deepening thirst for prayer, the woman continued. Then healing will flow through those who seek with sincere hearts. The sixth sign is surrender, a place where fear is released and faith becomes their anchor. Finally, the old woman took a deep breath, grounding the moment. And the seventh sign, dear child, will be a divine gift, one that seals this journey with unmistakable wonder. It will confirm your purpose, not just for yourself, but for many. Sarah felt the earth beneath her shift into solid ground. The signs painted a divine masterpiece meant for her community, her people, their waiting hearts. But the more she discovered, the more pressing the question lingered. How would they embrace this call? What challenges would she have to confront along the way? As the golden morning light glimmered through the chapel, the air thick with the promise of the divine, her spirit whispered a prayer of readiness, an invitation to step forward no matter how daunting it might seem. Was her heart truly prepared for the divine journey ahead? Would she gather her community and lead them into this beautiful mystery God had prepared? In that moment, everything hinged on her faith and willingness to leap into the unknown. What would be the first step she would take? The sunlight streamed through the chapel windows, illuminating dust motes that danced in the gentle breeze. Sarah stood rooted in place, her heart racing as she processed the weight of the old woman's words. Each sign felt like a sacred nudge, guiding her toward a future woven with divine purpose. Standing before the open scroll, she inhaled slowly, as if trying to absorb the very essence of the prophecies before her. What does it mean to gather our hearts as one? She pondered aloud, feeling both excitement and fear mingle within her. It was a question that demanded an answer, echoing in the walls of her mind. The old woman watched her with an expression of deep understanding. To gather is to align your intentions with His. It is to open your hearts, inviting others to share in that sacred space. The idea of unity began to blossom within Sarah. An image formed clearly, her church, a tapestry of individuals standing hand in hand, each thread a unique story woven together in the Spirit. Could she truly invite them to a deeper connection? Would they heed the call? Begin by reaching out, the woman encouraged, gently breaking the silence that enveloped them. Share your vision, spark curiosity in their hearts. This is the starting point. Sarah could feel her pulse quicken. How could she reach them? Words often escaped her when she was most passionate. What if they scoffed, were turned away? The worries threatened to drown out her hope. But even as doubt pressed upon her, a voice within whispered truth. Everyone wants to belong, to be seen. Wasn't that the essence of the journey ahead? To create a safe place where each story could be told, each struggle laid bare, and hope ignited? I'll gather them under a call for prayer, she declared, a fire igniting in her heart. A prayer meeting to share our burdens and blessings. I can start there. A gentle smile graced the old woman's lips. Yes, bring them to the altar of prayer. It is a sacred space where hearts converge. Do not underestimate the power of shared prayers. As the conversation unfolded, Sarah felt a warmth flooding her soul. Ideas flowed like water, reaching out to the members of her community, inviting them to share their testimonies and creating moments where they could witness divine movements together. The signs were not just hers, they belonged to all of them. But then the weight of the third sign pressed upon her heart. How will I recognize the silent prophet? She asked, curiosity brightening her tone. Be attentive, the woman replied solemnly. Look for those unnoticed, who speak softly yet carry depth. Sometimes wisdom hides in gentle whispers. Intrigued and somewhat perplexed, Sarah thought of the corners of her church where quieter souls often lingered. Was it possible these humble spirits held keys to revelations yet to come? "Yes, I will pay attention," she whispered, an eager sense of discovery blossoming within her. With each moment, the old woman's presence filled Sarah with resolute inspiration. It came from a source deeper than herself, a river of hope that cut through her insecurities. She began to envision her first invitation, a simple note, a phone call, a person-to-person outreach. As she prepared to leave the sanctity of the chapel, the final challenge loomed large in her mind. What if fear grips them? She asked. What if they hesitate to step forward? The old woman rested her hand on Sarah's, grounding her. When fear arises, speak truth. Remind them that love casts out fear. Encourage them to surrender their worries, trusting in the protective embrace of faith. Determined, Sarah stepped outside the chapel, feeling the warmth of the sun envelop her. The world felt full of possibilities as she considered her next move. But still, an undeniable question lingered. How would her community respond? Would they open their hearts to divine revelation and transformation? As she walked towards home, the path ahead shimmered with hope, brighter than ever before. But the greatest mystery awaited. What unforeseen challenges would they face that could bind them even closer together? As Sarah stepped into the vibrant heartbeat of her community, she felt the air shift around her. Each familiar face greeted her with warmth, yet a sense of anticipation crackled in the space between them. The thought of gathering them, of laying bare her vision, surged within her like a river breaking free from its banks. That evening, she penned the invitation with care, pouring her heart into every word. "Join us for a prayer meeting," she wrote. "Let us gather our burdens and blessings, share our stories, and seek the divine together." Each stroke of her pen felt like a prayer itself, an offering to the Lord, asking Him to work beyond her strength. The next day, she stepped into the church, her hands trembling with both excitement and nerves. As she hung the invitation on the bulletin board, she felt as if she was placing her heart on display too, vulnerable yet hopeful. Just as she stepped back, she caught sight of Tom, one of the quiet members of her congregation. His round glasses reflected the light as he scanned the board, his brow furrowed with concern. "Hey, Tom," Sarah called out, her voice a gentle invitation. "Are you thinking about the prayer meeting?" Tom shuffled closer, his hands tucked into his pockets. I saw it," he replied, slowly, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm not sure if I should come." Her heart sank a little. Why not? He looked at her, his eyes filled with untold stories. I'm afraid I'll not be able to contribute." "Tom," she said, firmly but kindly, "it's not about what you say. It's about being together. Your presence is enough." He hesitated, glancing down at his feet. "I've never done anything like this before." "None of us have," she encouraged gently. "But I believe when we come together, something beautiful happens. You never know the impact your silence might have. Sometimes it's the quiet souls who inspire the loudest change." As Tom nodded slowly, something shifted in the air. A small flame of courage sparked within her, spreading like wildfire through her heart. With each passing day, Sarah reached out to more people, fostering connections that felt as precious as gold. She shared moments of laughter and tears, always inviting them to join in this new endeavor of prayer and fellowship. The once distant faces began to brighten, reflecting a glimmer of hope kindling within them. In the days leading up to the prayer meeting, she felt a whirlwind of emotions. Anticipation twisted with a tinge of doubt. The old woman's words echoed in her mind. Bring them to the altar of prayer. Was she truly ready for what might unfold? The thought struck her. What would happen if they all dared to lay their burdens bare? Would they find freedom, brokenness, healing? On the eve of the meeting, as Sarah prepared her little corner of the chapel with candles and flowers, she heard a soft knock at the door. It was Ruth, another quieter member, with a shy smile gracing her lips. "I thought I'd come help," she offered. Sarah's heart warmed. "Of course, I'm so glad you're here." As they decorated the chapel together, Ruth began to share her own struggles. The beauty of vulnerability wrapped around them like a warm blanket. "It's hard to be seen, isn't it?" Sarah murmured, a lump forming in her throat. "Yeah," Ruth replied quietly. "But maybe, if we're brave together, it won't be so hard." The power of shared burdens hung in the air, a palpable promise of hope. Sarah realized then that even in the softest voices, divine revelation was waiting to break forth. As the clock ticked down toward the meeting, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow held something far beyond her understanding. Would it be the miracle she envisioned, or something entirely unexpected? The sacred mystery awaited them all, and deep within her heart, she felt the stirring of something greater. But what awaited them at the altar of prayer? Would they truly gather as one, hearts aligned in divine unity? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the chapel, a haven set apart for the divine encounter that awaited them. Sarah stood in the quiet space, inhaling deeply, soaking in the stillness. The world outside buzzed with evening life, but inside, it felt like time held its breath. As the hour approached, the gentle sound of footsteps and soft murmurs filled the air. One by one, familiar faces filtered in, their expressions a mix of curiosity and nervousness. Sarah offered warm smiles, her heart swelling with gratitude. Each person who walked through the door carried their own burdens, their own stories, yet all had chosen to step into this sacred moment. There was Tom, his hands fidgeting as he took a seat at the back, eyes darting around, still uncertain. Next came Ruth, who settled beside him, bringing a quiet energy that seemed to calm the air around them. Other congregants trickled in, David with a broad smile that lightened the space, and Mary, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of awe and apprehension. With each arrival, the atmosphere thickened with promise. "Welcome, everyone," Sarah's voice rang out, warm and inviting, as she stood at the front, the candles flickering softly in their warm glow. "I'm so grateful you're all here tonight as we bring our hearts together in prayer." As she spoke, she felt a deep stirring of the Spirit within her, compelling her to go deeper, to encourage. This is not just a meeting, it's a chance for us to share, to lift each other up, to expose our vulnerabilities and let the light of God's love seep into our shadows. An expectant hush fell over them. The room felt charged, as if the very air vibrated with the presence of something holy. "Tonight, let's do something different," Sarah suggested, her voice steady with growing faith. "I'd like each of you to think of a burden you're carrying, something heavy on your hearts. When you feel ready, you can come forward and place it here," she pointed to a small altar, adorned with flowers and candles, as a symbol of surrender. A ripple of apprehension moved through the room. Sarah noticed the way some participants glanced at each other, uncertainty written across their faces. But there was also promise, a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, this act of bringing forth their struggles could lead to liberation. Tom shifted in his seat, a hint of resolve in his demeanor. Sarah's heart raced as she caught his eye, giving him an encouraging nod. Slowly he rose, moving toward the altar. The decision hung heavy with meaning. As he placed a small piece of paper there, a collective breath swept through the congregation. One by one, others followed, Ruth with her shyness transforming into strength, David, whose bravado melted as he laid down his cares, Mary, who released her fears with tears streaming down her cheeks. The sanctuary filled with an electric presence, a tapestry of faith woven from every individual release. Then Sarah led them into prayer, her voice a soothing balm. Each word carried their collective burdens, rising like incense, reaching toward heaven. A stillness enveloped the room. But amidst a prayer, Sarah felt something shift, a wave of divine energy coursing through them. It was as if they were not just speaking to a God far off, but enfolded within. His embrace, connected in a way she couldn't quite comprehend. "Thank you, Lord," she whispered, her heart brimming. A flash of insight pierced through her mind. These were not merely individuals. They were vessels of collective healing, channels for divine revelation. What if God had a specific purpose for each person here? What if, by laying down their burdens, they were not just finding freedom, but were stepping into a calling? As the prayer drew to a close, a sense of awe wrapped around them, like a soft cloak of reassurance. They'd come seeking healing, but what if something even greater awaited them? What if they were being called into a shared destiny they had yet to understand? The final amen resounded, but the air buzzed with new life, new connection. Sarah opened her eyes, breathless with anticipation. Could they be ready to embrace the calling he had for them? An unspoken question hung laden in the air. What divine plans were now set in motion? As they stood together, hearts unified, the unfolding journey promised to reveal extraordinary truths about faith and community. What miracle awaited them in the days to come? The moments that followed felt like a sacred hush, a pause in the rhythm of their lives. Each heart began to beat in sync with the compelling hope lingering in the air. Sarah glanced around, noticing the transformed expressions on her friends' faces. The weight of their burdens seemed lighter, the flickering candles casting shadows that danced like spirits liberated from their earthly chains. Sometimes we hold on to our fears tightly, not realizing that letting go can open up a new way, Sarah shared, her voice filled with renewed strength. Can we take a moment to listen, to silence our minds and open our hearts to His voice? As she encouraged them to sit in stillness, an exquisite peace settled over the group. The clamor of the outside world faded away, leaving behind only the gentle flicker of candlelight and the soft whisper of the divine. Eyes closed, they began to breathe deeply, exhaling the remnants of doubt and inhaling pure, heavenly assurance. In that stillness, Sarah felt it again, a wave of presence washing over them. It urged her to speak. God wants to reveal His plans to us. He desires to guide us. Each word hung in the air, heavy with anticipation and possibility. Tom, who had once been seated at the back, shifted in his chair, now fully engaged. "What do we need to do?" he asked, urgency sparking in his voice. The rawness of his question sparked something in the circle. "Open your hearts and ask Him," Sarah replied, her own spirits lifted further still. "Ask Him to show you the next step." There was a renewed energy, a daring hope swelling in the sanctuary. Ruth, ever so gentle, broke the silence, her voice trembling slightly. I feel like I've been holding back, like I've hidden away the gifts He's given me."
"Yes," Mary exclaimed, her eyes shining. "We're all made for so much more than we understand. What if we're being called to serve together, to become more than we've imagined?" Her excitement rippled through the room. Tears of realization began to trickle down cheeks, each one a sign of burdens washed away. In a moment of tender vulnerability, David stood, eyes gleaming with conviction. "I believe the Lord wants us to move from being spectators of faith to being instruments of His will." The words seemed to spark fluency among them. Laughter, some light-hearted and others deep, filled the air as they expressed their growing insights and inspirations. Each realization built upon the last, weaving a rich tapestry of encouragement. "Let's embrace it," Tom said, a newfound confidence shining through his earlier uncertainty. "Each of us is a piece of this puzzle. Together, we're called to something beautiful, right?" Sarah's heart soared. Exactly! She could feel the Spirit hovering above, connecting them through unadulterated love and divine purpose. Suddenly, a gentle breeze swept through the open window, stirring the candles in response, almost as if heaven itself was affirming their resolve. The congregation collectively gasped, the energy in the room rising to an electric peak. "Maybe we should share our dreams," Ruth suggested, her eagerness bubbling over. "What if we actually spoke what we felt God was nudging us toward?" One by one, they began to share visions and aspirations, dreams that had long been hidden or dismissed. Each story intertwined with the next, forming a collective vision far greater than they had anticipated. Waves of joy washed over them as they realized that they were not alone. They were a fellowship journeying toward a common calling. But just as celebration hovered in the air like sweet incense, an uncomfortable thought nudged at Sarah. Would they actually take the leap of faith required to pursue these awakened callings? What might that entail? As they continued to share, a stirring uncertainty lingered, mingled with excitement. What if their next steps beckoned them into the unknown? With hearts alight, Sarah wondered, had they truly become ready to embrace this divine adventure? Only time would reveal the depth of their calling. The days that followed the prayer meeting revealed a tapestry woven with new connections and unyielding hope. Sarah watched as her community began to blossom, each individual embracing the stirring of divine purpose within their hearts. The air fluttered with excitement, with each passing interaction feeling electric, charged with spirit-driven anticipation. Every Monday, they gathered under the chapel's warm glow, their collective conversations spiraling into a swirl of ideas and outreach. Tom, once hesitant, now approached Sarah with a burning desire to lead a discussion group. Ruth took up sketching the visions that emerged from their meetings, pouring her foundational talent into a visual representation of their calling. Individuals once hidden in the shadows slowly emerged, sharing their gifts, healing stories, and hopes ignited from new faith. One fateful evening, as twilight painted
the skies with hues of orange and purple, Sarah stood at the front of the chapel, preparing for what they called Faith in Action Night. Laughter and chatter bubbled around her, yet a gentle hush settled as she addressed her friends. "Tonight," she began, the earnestness of her heart spilling into her tone, "we explore what our dreams truly mean. Let's dare to step outward together into the world." Excited murmurs floated around her, each soul glimmering with eagerness to share their inspiration. "You know," Tom spoke up, a newfound confidence radiant upon his face, "I want to create a youth outreach program, a way to reach the young ones who are searching for guidance." Ruth chimed in, her hand gripping her sketchbook tightly. "And I want to organize art classes where we create pieces that tell our stories, stories that can be shared to heal, healing through creativity." As the ideas flowed, Sarah felt her heart swell with gratitude. They weren't just talking, they were stepping into a collective commitment. She marveled at the divine choreography unraveling around them, an orchestra of willing hearts shaping their community's calling. "Let's combine our efforts," David exclaimed. "What if we host an event that showcases our gifts and invites the wider community to witness what God is doing among us? We could offer prayers, stories, art, and even testimonies of faith." With each suggestion, a wave of unity washed over the group. The fear of stepping into the unknown began to dissolve, replaced by the certainty of their shared purpose. They sensed their call was now planted firmly in the soil of collective action, nourishing a garden of hope waiting to bloom. As the meeting drew to a close that night, Sarah led them in a prayer of consecration. She felt the presence of the Almighty fill the sanctuary again, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. "Lord, I ask you to guide each heart here, igniting the flames of courage, clarity, and joy as we walk in faith. Spill over our boundaries and bless our efforts to shine your love." The week had passed quickly, and excitement stirred within Alderwood as the evening of the event approached. Flyers adorned the village, each adorned with bright artwork from Ruth, spreading the message like wildfire. A night of blessings, sharing our gifts, beckoned the passerby. The night was alive, vibrant, and full of expectancy. The chapel filled with people from every corner of Alderwood. Judging by the collective buzz that filled the air, God's Spirit prepared to unveil the extraordinary unfolding. As they began, Sarah felt the sacred energy hush the crowd's chatter. They introduced their vision, showcasing testimonies and talents embroidered together, each telling a unique story of transformation and faith. Music echoed through the rafters as people shared poetry, brought forth artwork, and witnessed the redemptive power of prayer. Suddenly, the atmosphere swelled in a divine cadence, casting heavy hues of Miraculous. With every story shared, hearts raced and tears flowed. A potency of recognition blossomed, shifting those seated into deeper places of revelation. Sarah's heart swelled. The calling was manifesting right before her eyes. The congregation of Alderwood, once filled with uncertainty, was now a living testament to their journey of faith. Just then, an older gentleman approached the stage, emotion glimmering in his eyes. "I've watched this community transform before my very eyes," he spoke, his voice cracking. "It was here that I once stood in darkness, but tonight I too find courage to share my journey. Thank you, Sarah, for igniting a flame of hope." The applause that followed reverberated throughout the chapel, echoing deep into the corners of their hearts. As the evening culminated in song and laughter, a realization dawned. This was but the beginning. They had transformed faith into action and realized the beauty of believing together. As they closed, Sarah stood overwhelmed with gratitude. The divine threads of connection were woven brilliantly into the fabric of Alderwood, uniting them in calling. "Tonight, we've seen the miraculous," she declared. "Let us remember that our journey continues. We must bear witness to this light, creating a ripple that extends far beyond these walls." As the event concluded and people began to filter into the night, Sarah sensed an indescribable shift, a unity forged in purpose. Each soul, neighbor, teacher, artist, child, committed to the calling that was revealed. As Sarah finally stepped out into the cool night air, she felt the stirrings of the Holy Spirit encircle her like a warm embrace. The divine journey ahead sparked in her heart, illuminating the call to which they now belonged as a community. Was the grand adventure just beginning? Only time would tell. But armed with faith, they stood ready. As the stars twinkled above, a collective hope embraced Alderwood, echoing not just within the chapel, but in every heart willing to embrace God's greatest calling. Don't wait another moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel for your next dose of exclusive faith stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like right now to fuel the algorithm, stretching our story's reach to even more thirsty hearts. And comment below, share your reactions and testimonies about this beautiful ending. We would love to hear from you. Finally, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this divine manifestation happen. Let's spread the light of faith together. Every action makes an impact.